Hello, Melissa. How are you?
I'm good, Ben. How are you?
I'm doing very well, and I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with me to have a quick chat with me. How are you and Stephen doing? How are things with you guys over there?
We're great, thanks. Steve's so sad he couldn't be here today. He's at work, but he always enjoys seeing you as well.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. Thank you, and give them my regards. I really do appreciate you taking the time to have a quick chat with me and really talk about your experiences with me and helping you with your house renovation. So I think it's appropriate that we start talking about what was a rationalization of you and of you deciding to make that purchase of your property. Can you sort of give me the lay of the land? What drove you to buy it?
Sure. Steve and I are looking at retiring in a few years, and we found this place on the lake. It was a great deal, bit of a fixer-upper, 50-year-old home and owned by the same couple the whole time. And we were able to purchase it for a song. It's right on the lake. It's going to be perfect for our own retirement. But in the meantime, we're going to use it as a rental property to generate some income to put away a little more for when we get to enjoy our time together.
Yeah. And then I appreciate you giving me that information, telling me that. And I remember one of we've had conversations, and it truly is a beautiful property.
It
Uh,
is.
and also, like, I'm sure there's always that option you can turn it into an Airbnb as well, and we talked about it as well. So um,
Yeah, we have so many opportunities with this property.
and
Really, oh,
and I
so lucky.
Yeah, and Melissa, I tell a lot of new real estate investors that when they walk into a property, they need to have multiple exit strategies whenever they're purchasing a property, because if one door closes, you need to have a plan B and then pursue that. And then if you can't have plan B, you need to have a plan C. So this
Mhm.
particular property that you have, it's a great location, and it gives you multiple options for you to be able to, if one doesn't work out, to be able to do something else. So it's a great purchase. But can you tell me, give me sort of the lay of the land with regards to the condition of the property? Like, was it when you walked in? And I remember you showing me the property. Can you tell me, like, what was it that what kind of work it needed?
Um, oh, it needed so much work. Not even just that the decor was outdated. I mean, there was this lime green monster of a carpet you may remember in the living room, this wallpaper in the bedroom. The tiles, oh my gosh, in the bathroom were seafoam green, like
Yeah.
so accurate to the time that this house was purchased, because it was 50 some years old.
Right.
That was one thing, the cosmetics of it. The bones of the house themselves are good. Did I mention it's 2,800 square feet, this house?
Yeah.
Really great property.
Yeah.
Really, like, it's just beautiful, the view, everything. The bones of the house were good. But this couple, they just weren't able to maintain the home
Yeah.
the last, I don't know, 15, 20 years as they got older themselves.
Right.
So we needed a new roof. We have a leaky basement on our hands. Windows, doors, all of it.
Right.
All of it.
Yeah.
And as much as it's exciting to pick a house up for a song and all that potential, then reality hits. And for me and Steve, we were like, wow, this is beyond our capabilities. And we don't know what to do next.
Right.
So long-term dream, long-term goal is great, but then reality sunk in, and we had a lot of work on our hands.
Yeah. And it's funny that you mentioned those lime green tiles and stuff like that. Houses, all those houses, whether in the apartment buildings that I've worked in and houses that were built in that era, all of them have those little 4x4 lime green, pink color kind of tiles. And I must have seen millions of them in my 30 years of doing this. And so it's funny that you brought those up, because
Yeah.
I see them all the time when properties are built during that period. But
Yeah.
anyways,
And the toilet was seafoam green. It was nauseating in
yeah,
itself.
yeah,
So
yeah. Well,
yeah.
anyways, as you know, like there are a lot of people that are new real estate investors and sort of like yourselves who want to create passive income, who want to buy their first rental property, and like yourself, they bought it and they need to renovate it, and so they're not sure what they should do. On one hand, they know that if they can go the route of hiring a general contractor, and the general contractor will look after everything. But there's obviously a cost associated with it because they charge money, and pretty substantial money, to oversee a project. Then the other option is, of course, for you to be able to plan and manage your renovation yourself, to look after it yourself. And so the question I have for you is that I would think that a lot of people would have what made you decide to do the actual your own renovation? Like what drove you to do it?
We started talking to friends, and it turned out so many of our friends had horror stories about working with general contractors, people who gave them a quote that seemed reasonable, showed up, or worse, didn't show up after deposits were made. One of my friends, they were building a pool house and noticed that a number of corners were being cut. And then the person just took off with their money and left them with a big pile of mess in their backyard that they then had to pay someone else to take care of, plus pay for completion of the project. And we just felt that was a waste of our resources to get into a situation like that. Plus, it was a confusing process of talking to general contractors. Like, we were given quotes from 120,000 for the work up to 150,000. And Van, that just seems very sketch to me. And no real guarantees on the work that would be done. And I didn't feel that our needs were being prioritized as far as our goals and what we wanted to see the property become. It's a very scary process. And suddenly the money that we were saving in buying a fixer-upper was just going out the window.
Right.
Yeah.
No, and it's so common, and I hear so many horror stories, especially now because the real estate market is humming. Lots of properties are being bought and sold. Things are being renovated. So contractors, a lot of them are busy, and so you'll find a lot of guys that will decide to become contractors and will go around and collect deposits and promise you the moon, the stars, and the sky, and they don't show up. Or I know of an instance, this was a couple of weeks ago, where a family hired a general contractor to knock down a garage, like a detached garage, and rebuild it. The contractor came, knocked it down, did some work over there, and then went to the family and said, "Hey, I need more money," because for whatever reason they underestimated what the cost would be. And obviously, our natural inclination as people is, if you get contractors to quote you work, your natural inclination is to go to the cheapest one, but often that isn't the right move. So anyway, so this family chose the cheapest guy. He knocks on the garage, goes to the family, says, "Hey, I need an extra $12,000 more or whatever." And the family's like, "We don't have the money. This is all we have." And the contractor just picks up and leaves. And so now the family is confronted with having to find another contractor to pick up the work. And no contractor wants to step in a job that's, sort of, kind of half completed. It's like sitting down and eating a half-eaten sandwich. You don't want to.
No.
So you'll find a person, but they're going to charge you your premium because they're going to take on the work of somebody else. And also they see you in a desperate situation because you need somebody to finish the work. So it's a really dicey game that you need to have your eyes and ears and eyes and back of your head. You got to know the process, and you got to vet the contractors very well. And it's pretty scary. So like what you mentioned with this huge, discrepancy between 120 to 150 is something that is commonplace, where you have such a wide range that you scratch your head, said, hey, this is kind of, like you said, sketchy. Like, what's going on here?
Yeah, exactly. And we didn't want to give up that control either, to have someone in and find out 10 years from now that they've done some shoddy work and we're going to have to spend that much more money. We want this to be our home one day when we retire. We were sick at the thought of just handing it over to someone who was a generalist, who might not put the care in that we want into our home.
Right.
Yeah.
So Melissa, at the end of the day, if you don't mind me asking, like, in the totality of the actual renovation, like, how much does this, including the kitchen sink, how much did everything cost?
$88,000 all in.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. Huge savings compared to the quotes. And with your guidance and walking us through things, it was not horrible. We're still married.
Well, I happen to know Stephen, and he appreciates that, and yeah, so that's good. So you guys are still, together, and after this whole experience,
it's been a good experience for us, actually.
I don't know if I told you this, but there is an old saying that says, if you wish your enemy ill will, wish them to build a home, but in your case, renovate a home. And isn't that the case? Like, it's not
like, there were big decisions to be made. There was money spent, and those are the times when you really get to know your partner and yourself and what you're like under stress. But with you being there to guide us through everything, it just took so much pressure off, and we are so grateful to you for that.
Well, I appreciate that. And like I said before, it was wonderful to spend time and work with you. And I had a lot of fun in the banter back and forth with you guys. And I'm glad that you succeeded, and that you saved a lot of money. And ultimately, that's what I want to see everybody. And also, I want people to be able to spend, they'll be able to sleep at night instead of having to worry about the contractor who didn't show up, or the contractor did a lousy job, and things like that. And there's a lot of liability, there's a lot of money floating around in these types of things. And so, how long does it take people to earn $1,000 if all of a sudden $1,000 went out the window because of some screw up of a contractor, or screw up on your part? Like, we screw up too, as homeowners or property owners, we screw up as well. So can you sort of give me a brief description of the work that went into your home and the length of time? I remember it was somewhere around, I think all said and done, I think the job was done in 5 months, I think.
It was, which was quicker than we expected, given that this was new territory for us. Like, Steve's very handy. Like, I really have to say that my husband has a number of gifts that I wasn't aware of. I learned so much myself through this process, because I love doing these kinds of things, and I didn't know how much until we went through this. But you really sat down with us and took the time to help us establish the goals of our renovation, to create a needs and wants list, because I wanted that lime green carpet gone so badly that I was willing to overlook the fact that the windows were leaking in the room.
Right. Yeah.
And that doesn't make sense. But when you don't have that experience, and you don't have someone saying, hey, you got to take care of this. Yep. It's easy to see the lime green carpet in this, forest of things that need to be done. You helped us establish our budget. We were fortunate enough to have some money to spend, and it would have gone very quickly without some guidance. The scope of the work, you were so essential in helping us with that. And maybe this is where you should talk about the scope of our work more, because I'm getting a little emotional thinking about that 5 months and how beautifully our plans came together.
Yeah, no, hey, listen, it was for everybody to take on it's a huge emotional, financial toll when you're
Right.
taking on a huge, taking on a project like that, because we're not talking about a couple $100. We're talking about thousands and thousands of dollars. So there's a lot of apprehension. There's a lot of fear because you've never done it before. And talking to new real estate investors who taking their first step toward a renovation like that, that is one of the biggest things to overcome is the enormity of the task, the amount of money that's going on. And also, you hear about the horror stories that we talked on. We touched on these things about, people spending money and all of a sudden, for whatever reason, they lose money. And if you make one wrong move in this business, you're talking about thousands of dollars. Again, it takes a lot of money. It takes a lot of hours for us to work to make thousands of dollars. So all of this kind of stuff, this apprehension and fear is understandable. So what you identified in terms of goals and putting, figuring out what your budget is, and then a scope of work, which is that document that, everything is itemized in there so that it eliminates any income, it clarifies everything, makes everybody on the same page. Contractors know what the hell they're getting, what they're supposed to do. What you're getting from the contractor. And then the whole process of tendering it out. I remember there was some interaction. You had some quotes, there were some screwy quotes for here and there, and you got to look at them because some contractors purposely will avoid pricing out things, give you a quote so that listen, this is coming from a general contractor. So I kind of know the little tricks of the trade. So you will present a quote that doesn't include certain items. And then the property owner, will look at them and say, oh, this guy's cheaper than this guy, so I'll go with this guy. But the reality is that this guy who was hired was a better choice because this guy purposely didn't include those items. And so those are some of the things that I remember we went through and we identified, we spotted them. And as a result, we were able to be successful. And I'm very happy and proud that you guys went through the process. You're still married. That's good. And it's been successful. So that's good.
Yeah. And your insights were so invaluable because we would not have known those things about how quotes are made by contractors at all without your insights. So the work that we couldn't do ourselves, we were able to hand off to someone else with confidence because you took a look at it. Right.
So I ask everyone this, so please be totally dishonest as possible. And I want you to not tell me the truth, but I just want you to tell me what I want to hear. So tell me how it was dealing with me, how was the interaction. Can you give me that?
Come on. The fact that my husband, I'm pretty sure has like a bro crush on you, says it all. Because he's not the most outgoing guy, Steve. And he's like, did you talk to Van today? Like he's texted me while we've been talking. He's like, are you talking to Van? I'm like, of course I am. And it's been a great time. And I'm sorry you're not here. We've always looked forward to every interaction with you. And again, like just throughout this work that could have destroyed our marriage and really run us into financial ruin. Like we can't thank you enough.
No problem.
And your good humor and stuff too, because like, honestly, I did lose sleep at different points about the money being spent and just like, what if this doesn't work out? What if we, and you have always been there to kind of like take the edge off that for us and, keep us laughing through the hard times and really help us make the best decisions we have. Like, I'm so excited that we have this property now, that the work like is done and we know what to do if there's, we know we can call you if there's something that comes up and we need a hand with it. And that's a good feeling.
Yeah.
So we can't thank you enough. And it's been a good time.
It was that. Thank you very much for that. And it was a pleasure working with you. And also at the same time, I don't want to underestimate the amount of work and effort that you folks also put in. It's this is a team effort. In that a lot of all the legwork was done on your part and going through the home and identifying, talking to contractors, making sure that they're showing up on time and all that kind of stuff. So yes, you're going to have some sleepless nights. This is, even with my assistance, there's going to be moments where you're like, wow, I have to write a check tomorrow for $12,000. And that's a lot of money. And And it's not something that even I, with my infinite wisdom, can help. But it's still, you guys did really well, and you got a great finished project. And it was a great work. It was a great pleasure to work with you. So at the end, this is a question I ask everybody. So, do you think that you're do you think you're in a position that the next rental property that you're going to buy, whatever that property is, that would you be in a position to be able to do your own renovation based on the experience and my involvement, the experience that you gained from this first renovation? Do you think you can move on to your second or third renovation on your
I
own?
think we could. I actually, I'm very confident we could. We can get through anything now, but I'm confident that we could sit down and make a plan and go into it with this experience and the knowledge that you've given us, and be successful again. And I would not hesitate to recommend you to my friends and my loved ones either, because I want them to feel the way I do right now, not the way my friend Angie felt when, she was left with a mess in her backyard, as I mentioned earlier. Like, that destroyed her.
Sure.
For days. And I don't have that feeling. And I would want to share that with other people for sure.
Great. I love to hear that. And I'll give my regards to Stephen, and hopefully we'll hook up very soon. It was a great pleasure. And thank you very much for taking the time. It was a great pleasure talking to you. Best of success. And like I said, we'll stay in touch. Okay.
Thank you so much for everything, Van.
No problem. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.